Hi, welcome once again to M5's English language learning program, Let's Speak English. I'm Gav Duncan and I'm here on your TV to help you learn English. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Yes? Good. And are you ready for today's lesson? Yes? Good. Okay, well, let's learn English together. And we're back. Yes. Here we all are, all fresh from a trip to Venus. No, sorry, that's a little white lie. In fact, me and the crew spent the night as guests of the mole people. They're a bit strange. Okay, so that was what we did last night. And what about you? Well, I didn't see any of you down there with the mole people, so I'm assuming that you did something more normal. Okay, well, whatever you did, I hope you had lots of fun. And now, are you refreshed? Are you awake and ready? Ready to start learning how we make questions using the past continuous tense? Yes, I bet you are. So, tell Gusti to stop dancing about like a mad chicken. Tell Margot to stop purring so loudly. And tell Nigel, you know what. Tell Nige to stop the noise pollution for the next quarter of an hour. Honestly, Nigel, I know you're a great bloke and we are great mates, you and I, but you really are noisy. You make a noise that a pneumatic drill would be proud of. So please, for the sake of everyone's ears, keep it down until the end of the lesson, okay? Right, the animals have received their instructions and we're ready to get started. Okay, then let's get started. Now, let's just think about how easy the past continuous is. It's a very simple tense to make, isn't it? All we need is the past tense of the verb to be and then a main verb in the ing form. Simple. Simple as pi. And pi is 3.14159. So that's very simple, isn't it? Okay. So, very easy. I think you'll all agree. Now, we know that we need the past simple form of the verb to be. And we know that there are two forms of the verb to be in the past simple. So, this means that when we're making a sentence with the past continuous, we need to pay attention to what the subject is. The past simple form of the verb to be is this. I was, you were, he was, she was, it was, we were, you were, they were. So, as we can see, there are two forms, was and were. We use was for the first person singular, I, and we also use was for the third person singular, he, she and it. We use were for all of the other subjects, the second person singular and the plural subjects. Okay, great. So that's not too hard, is it? No, two forms, easy. So if we're talking about I, he, she or it, then we use was plus a main verb in the ing form. And if we're talking about you or any of the plural subjects, then we use were plus a main verb in the ing form. Easy. So easy, even a dead fish like George could do it. All right, so that's the positive. What about the negative? Well, what word do we need to make the sentence negative? Which is the word we always see when we're talking about negative sentences in English? Yes, that's right. The word we need is not. If we want to make a negative sentence with the past continuous, then we need to add not to the sentence. Okay, but where? Where does the not go? Where do we put not to make a positive past continuous sentence negative? Well, the not goes after the auxiliary verb. It goes after the past simple version of the verb to be, was or were. If we're talking about I, he, she or it, then we use was not. But you know that we all prefer the short version, the abbreviated version, so we use wasn't. And if we're talking about you or any of the plural forms, then we use were not. And again, we abbreviate it to weren't. Then, all we have to do is add the main verb in the ing form, and we're done. I was doing something strange. You were playing tennis. He was ironing a shirt. She was drinking vodka. It was eating cat food. We were living in the garden. You were running a marathon. They were shooting squirrels. Okay, so that's the positive form. And what about the negative? Well, we've got a table for that too, thanks to Mabel. I was not doing something strange. You were not playing tennis. He was not ironing a shirt. She was not drinking vodka. It was not eating cat food. We were not living in the garden. You were not running a marathon. They were not shooting squirrels. Okay, so simple enough really, isn't it? All we have to do when we want to make a negative sentence using the past continuous tense is add the word not to was or were and then carry on as usual. Okay, and now we get to the question. Finally, we reach the question form for the past continuous. And it's easy. All right. What do we remember about forming questions in English? What happens to the word order? Yes, that's right. When we make a question in English, the word order changes, doesn't it? That's right. When we make a question, we put the auxiliary verb before the subject. This means that we change the positive sentence, I like Mozart, into a question by putting the auxiliary verb to do at the front, and then following the auxiliary verb with the subject. I like Mozart becomes do I like Mozart? And of course we add a question mark to the end, but you all remembered that anyway, didn't you? Okay, so when we make a question using the past continuous, we do the same thing. We start with the auxiliary verb, was or were, depending on the subject, and then we follow it with the subject. Then we follow the subject with the ing form of the main verb and finish with a question mark. Easy. No? Yes. And would you like to see it in a table? Okay then, Mabel, table. Was I doing something strange? Were you playing tennis? Was he ironing a shirt? Was she drinking vodka? Was it eating cat food? Were we living in the garden? Were you running a marathon? Were they shooting squirrels? Simple. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, Japanesey, bread and cheesy. Okay, that's the theory. Let's have some practice. All right. In the following, I'd like you to turn the information into questions in the past continuous. As usual, let's do the first one together, shall we? Number 1. Where you work in 2014. Where were you working in 2014? Great! So, at the front of the sentence, we can see that there is a question word, which means that we start with that. After the question word, we get the correct form of the auxiliary verb for the subject, and because we can see that the subject for this question is you, we use were. And we follow the auxiliary verb with the subject, you, and then add the ing form of the main verb. So, work changes to working, and because we know that the verb to work ends in two consonants, R and K, we know that we don't have to do anything to the end of the verb before we add the ing ending. We just have to stick the ing ending onto the end of the infinitive. Work changes to working. And then, well, all we have to do then is add the last part of the sentence, in 2014. And so, the completed question is, where were you working in 2014? All right, here are some more for you to try on your own. You've got some time, a number of seconds. Enough time for the opening credits of The Sweeney. Ready, steady, go. Okay, time's up. How did you all get on? Well, let's check and find out. Okay, we did the first one together, so we don't need to bother with that one. So, let's get cracking on number 2. Right then, what have you got? Well, there's 2 verbs in this question. One in the past continuous and one in the past simple. The longer action is in the past continuous and the shorter action is the past simple. So that means the first verb, to talk, is the past continuous and the second verb, to arrive, is in the past simple. Okay, so we start with the question word who. Then we have to follow the question word with the correct form of the auxiliary verb that we use to make the past continuous. We're talking about you, so that means we have to use were. Okay, who were? Now what? Well, now we add the subject, you, and then follow that with the ing form of the main verb. Okay, so that gives us who were you talking to? Great! And now? Well, now we have to put the next part of the sentence into the right tense, the past simple, when I arrived. And it's a question, so we know that we need a question mark at the end, when I arrived. Okay, so put it all together, just like Swedish furniture, and the completed sentence is...
Sunday fish finger!
Who were you talking to when I arrived? All right, brilliant. And, oh, viola neck pegs. We're out of time. Okay, folks, the rest will have to wait until next time. So, if you didn't manage to finish them all, now you've got some extra time. Okay, that's all from us. Enjoy the weekend, have fun, and I'll see you on Monday. And don't forget, www.m5tv.hu. See you later. Bye.